All right, take it away. Do we want to say the one introduction about Backdrop before we jump into the demo? So I'm Nate.
I'm Jen.
And we started the Backdrop project quite a while ago now. It's been 5 years now. Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Backdrop is a fork of Drupal. For all intents and purposes, it's a fork of Drupal 7. The main objective of Backdrop is to lower the cost of ownership of a Drupal website over the long term. So Drupal 8, as you may know, doesn't expressly offer an upgrade path. It offers a migration. It's essentially a different piece of software with the same name and a migration tool to move you from the old software to the new one, which means that any code that you've written or any familiarity you have with the platform, it mostly needs to be relearned or rebuilt into the new Drupal 8 way. Backdrop is a continuation of the Drupal 7 paradigms, but with Drupal 8 functionality. And so the idea is that you can take your Drupal 7 sites, if you have Drupal 7 sites, and upgrade them to Backdrop easily and at a much lower cost than Drupal 8. And it's not a temporary like shim to make it so you can get off of Drupal 7 and onto something modern. It's intended to be a platform that will stay this way kind of permanently. Yeah, and it is modern, and with a high focus on backwards compatibility and a couple of other major tenets, but backwards compatibility being kind of the primary one that's our differentiator from the approach that Drupal 8 took when creating the next version of Drupal.
So our target audience is primarily nonprofits, small and medium-sized businesses, education, generally organizations that need very complex technical solutions but don't necessarily have huge budgets to back that up. And so we're trying to take all of the wonderful things that happen in Drupal 7 and make sure they're still available for people who love Drupal 7.
Yeah. So tomorrow we're going to be doing the entire why does Backdrop exists talk, the philosophy of Backdrop CMS. But for today, that's kind of all the introduction that you guys are going to get, and we're just going to jump right into what does Backdrop look like today and what kind of functionality does it provide. And so I'll turn it over to Jen to actually be talking about it.
Sure. We're also specifically going to focus on the things that are different from Drupal 7, because as we're walking through it, for those of you, just a question, how many of you have Drupal 7 sites right now? 3, whatever. Okay, good. So for those of you familiar with Drupal 7, it will look very much the same. And so our goal is to point out the things that are different, things that we've added or improved. So we're going to use Pantheon today as our demo platform. And so if you want to run Backdrop on Pantheon, you can. On the Backdrop CMS.org homepage, there's a big button that says install on Pantheon. If you click that button, it'll take you to if you already have a Pantheon account, your existing dashboard, and it'll start firing up Backdrop site for you. If you don't have a Pantheon account, it'll prompt you to create one. But this is the easiest way to get Backdrop running on Pantheon. You can also run it on any other web host that runs Drupal 7. We've specifically been trying to tune it to make it work better on shared hosting, so it's a little bit more performant than Drupal 7 was. We've actually already set up a Backdrop site because sometimes it takes Pantheon a while to fire up the instance. We didn't want to do that right now. And so we're going to go ahead and go to our development site. And the first thing, we can go through the process of installing. So this is what would happen if you fired up your site on Pantheon and click through. And you'll get to see how the installer works. In general, there's a ton of stuff that's installing, but it goes really fast. That should sort of put things in perspective with doing this installation in Drupal 7 took slightly longer than this. That's kind of our general goal, is to shoot for making it faster than Drupal 7. And then here is the normal installation form. You've seen this if you've ever installed Drupal. Just execute some basic information. We actually reduced some of the questions on this form to make it quicker to get through this.
Oh yeah.
We added a new password show hide toggle so that you didn't have to type your password twice, especially on mobile devices. That can be really frustrating if you can't see the password you've already entered. So we added a show hide password toggle, and we redid our password strength indicator so that people have a better idea of whether they're using a good password or not. ahead and save and continue, and then it'll go through the process of creating. I'm going to do it right now.
Well, I'm curious if using the Wi-Fi was a good idea, but it's
Okay,
fine.
there it goes. I'm like, wow, congratulations, you installed Backdrop. So very similar to what we went through in Drupal. Right out of the box, you'll notice it looks very different on the front end from Drupal 7 being a big blue box. It took us a couple releases to get a new front end theme in, but we did manage to get one. There's also a couple of other things we added along with the new theme. We put in a hero block, so this is just a block type with an image and it'll go all the way across the page. That's something that we noticed was like on 99% of modern websites. So we're like, oh, we just give people an easy way to do that rather than having to code it in. Now there's a user interface for that. We also added some sample content. So if you scroll down a little bit, we've got a first post, and in the menu there was a link there for an about page. This is a page we took from WordPress where people find it a lot easier to edit something that's already there, especially when your first time on a new system, than to create something from scratch. And so we put those in. We also have, I guess we'll get to the menu a little later, but there's a new menu system. Do you want to just shrink the page and we can show them how it's responsive? This is
Or just make it
like,
bigger.
When you go to make a new Drupal 7 site today, sometimes the biggest problem you're facing is this software was made 10 years ago and people didn't interact with the web the same way they did, so you've got to start by making it responsive. So we figured if we were going to make a new version of Drupal 7, we had to fix some of these obvious items. So Backdrop out of the box is responsive. Do you want to, can you make it, oh, so here's an example of the admin bar. It's the black bar across the top of the page. This was admin module in Drupal 7. It has been re-implemented, so it's now responsive and touch-friendly, so it's in Backdrop, and it's called admin bar now instead. With some cute icons. We also included a specific version of admin bar that has a search box in it. So if you're trying to find something in the administration interface, like where do you put the modules or whatever it is, you can type whatever you want into that box and it will show you in the menu where that item can be found. So hopefully next time you either won't need to look for it, or maybe you really like using the search box because you can just type in and hit down twice and enter and it'll take you to that page. So it's kind of a, gives people more options of ways to navigate the user interface that'll make it faster to get from page to page. All right. So can you shrink it so that we can see the menu toggle button? It's fine, it's not.
Yeah.
We need 2 minutes to figure it out.
Yeah.
Hey, there it goes. All right, so one of the things we also put in is, yeah, just a collapsible menu toggle, because that's something that's kind of hard to get stuck onto older sites too. So that's in there. And then if you scroll down the page, the layout also collapses. So what was originally took all layout, we have this one column, the whole thing. It should be responsive box, and hopefully in a way that it's pretty hard for you to break that if you're using layouts and stuff before. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new. Actually, let's go to the module page first. So just another example of how our administration system is a little different. We renamed the modules page functionality, but if you're looking for modules, you can type modules in the search box and it'll still take you to the modules page. We did a slight redesign on how the page looks in terms of how it's delivering information to you about each module. We also added a search box at the top. This is an instant filter module in Drupal 7 if you want to use that. You can type something in here like show me redirect module, and it'll show you that. And then we also recently added a reset button, so it's really easy to get off of that and get you a list of everything. But the most exciting thing about the module system that we changed to Backdrop is the ability to add new modules without leaving your website. So if you click on the Install New Modules tab, this is a contrib project called Project Browser for Drupal 7. So you put into Backdrop core. It'll let you search for any module that's currently publicly available. You can type it into the box, and it'll say, hey, there's this module called Web Form, and you can download it and put it on your site. So there's a little link there to add an installation queue. If you want to write more about the module, you can open up a dialog that has all the information from the modules. README file. And then once you decide to install it, if you click this installation queue button and click the install button, the colors are much better when it's not in the projector. It looks very washed out, like all the gray buttons are like white for some reason. But it's pretty, we promise. And then it gives you an install button, which will actually copy the files from Backdrop CMS to your local site, and then it will.
Do you want me to actually do this?
Maybe check. I think yes. Yeah, I think it. So on Pantheon, there's also some file permission restrictions, so you have to have the system on the right mode to copy the files. But this should copy and install the module for you. You're going to enable it. And once it's enabled, you can now go back to your list of modules page, and it should show you that web form is now on your site. So that made it a little easier. We didn't have to like go search a different website to find modules. All right, so let's create some content because everybody wants to know what the content creation experience is like. Let's start by making a page, and we're just going to make a history page of whatever this website happens to be about. Give it a title and history. We have a rich text editor. This is the kind of thing that everybody expects to be in their CMS. It wasn't in Drupal because Drupal 7 was making it so now it's really hard. So obviously we put one in for Backdrop. This rich text editor also supports inline images. So can you pop a workspace image in there?
Oh yeah, one of my favorite things ever to do is to take a screenshot like this. This lady in the bikini doesn't look that safe, but it's just a New York Times article, I swear. And you can like copy and paste with the clipboard, which is nice. And I just uploaded it right into the WYSIWYG.
Do you know if any other CMS has that?
Yeah, I think most.
WordPress have that?
I'm certain.
Drupal doesn't have that yet.
Yeah.
And you can go ahead and do stuff like add caption or align it while using the text editor. So then you go ahead and switch the image alignment from left to right. It opens the caption along with the image.
Pretty sure one of it didn't.
So just some sort of stuff that makes sense. It should do that. What was really hard to get set up on other systems. Right. So if you scroll down, we have a couple of other things you'll see in the vertical tabs at the bottom of the page. Oh, well, first of all, these have been redesigned. So with the button you're supposed to click on every page is now blue, which will look very slight, like admin interface improvement. All the other buttons will be white or gray, depending on what your projector is doing. And then you almost always have canceling, so you're to get out of whatever the actions that you're doing. In our vertical tabs, the first one is for publishing options. Right now, the only thing we have here is the ability to publish the content, create a draft, or schedule it for later. Scheduling it for later is a module for Drupal 7 called Schedule, but it's also something that comes out of the core in WordPress. You get that when you install it. So like, why don't we just take that rather than letting people create content and having to change their post date for a time in the future. You'll enter a post date in the future. We'll just publish the content on the date they enter. It makes a lot of sense. So we went ahead and added that into Backdrop too. All of the other stuff is pretty similar. Off-air information is the same as it was in Drupal. URL settings, this is the same as it was in Drupal if you were using the token and Path Auto modules. Those are in core for Backdrop. They aren't in core for Drupal 7 or even Drupal 8 yet. But we do have automatic database generation enabled and with some sensible defaults out of the box in Backdrop. Menu settings, exactly the same as it was in Drupal 7. So we'll just go ahead and add a menu link. But we're going to make this a child item of the About page so you can see how nesting works out of the box. And then comment settings are also the same as they were in Drupal 7, a little UX cleanup on the form. So if we go ahead and save this post, it'll be sort of what you expect. This is our front end view has sort of big colors for the tabs and the breadcrumbs. But if you scroll in, you can see all the content. Here's the image, the line to the right or whatever with the option. The most exciting thing is if you go ahead and squish your screen again.
Oh.
The hard part. Now in the drop-down menu, it's a responsive, touch-friendly, accessible drop-down menu. So even on mobile, you can see how you can find your history page nested under About. And on desktop, it was the drop-down that triggers on the cover. So that again is something that you had to choose a module in Drupal to handle your drop-down menu configurations. We just took the most popular WordPress drop-down menu solution and put it into our Backdrop. It works so let's go ahead and create a post. So we also changed our basic content type names. And the rule was basic page and article. We changed it to page, post, copy, WordPress. Those words to make more people. So we just adopted what was already successful. This content type has more fields on it. So like our blog post has tags field that happens to step 2. Same body field. And we have for or not. Image field, same things you would have in Drupal 7. You'd add the fields to any content, type.
I always have a little bit of trouble finding a respectable picture.
But there's a couple of changes in how we handle the metadata about this article. We have publishing options. Still has our scheduling option there if we wanted to do that, but it also shows the promoted checkbox. This needs to be promoted to front page in Drupal and sticky. And those options we didn't see on the page, and that's not configurable by content type. So we can show you how that's done here.
I want to schedule this just for fun. Scheduled for it by default schedules 24 hours in advance, so it's going to say rounded to 5 minutes. So tomorrow at 3:20 p.m. It would actually publish. But I like that if you were to like accidentally use the wrong AM or PM or something like that, when you save, it tells you how long it's going to be before it publishes. I copied this from Android actually, that tells you, how long it's going to be before your alarm goes off. Because you're like, wait a minute, it's supposed to be tomorrow, not 12 hours, so, you could recognize your mistake there. And also a very big, clear, unpublished indicator.
Great. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is create a new content type. So just for the purposes of today, we're going to pretend the website we're building is a portfolio website for your personal side project or what have you. So if we go to structure of content types and add a new content type, we'll create one called project. And I'm more developer, these will be web development projects. So this will look very much the same in Drupal 7, just as you add a title and a description, but we've added a whole bunch of additional stuff to the content type creation form. So under publishing settings, this is where you can decide whether people are allowed to schedule that content type or not, whether they're allowed to make it sticky or not, whether they're allowed to make it promoted or not. So if you uncheck these options, it cleans up the experience of using the content creation form. The next one is one of the things I'm most excited about, where we now give you the ability to set the permissions for the content type you're creating on the content type creation form. One of the things that I forget to do all the time after we create a content type is give anyone permission to use it. And this will stop me from doing that, just putting it all in the same place. We've also added an option here for allowing you to configure your content URL pattern. So for automatic aliases, if you want every news post to contain a date or every blog post to contain the title /blog before it, you can do that. This is the project content type. We could do the URL project / and this also prevents me from having to go to the other interface for URL alias settings right there. We included, here's an example of the token browser. It's sort of the same as those in Drupal 7 minor redesign. And then we have revision settings. So now you can turn on and off the ability to have revisionable content by type. That's something that wasn't possible in Drupal 7. We enabled the web form module, so that's the contrib tab you see there. But menu settings just gives you the option to find which menus your content should go into. Display settings is sort of the same as it was before. There's one major difference here. Hide path display gives you the ability to create a type of content that is not visible at its own URL. So this is the equivalent of rabbit hole module from Drupal 7, where you can create something called a homepage slide, and the only place anyone can see that content is on your homepage in the slideshow. So this is a way that it allows our users to create blocks that are content, because in our system, blocks are configuration as they were in Drupal 7. All right, so next we'll go ahead and save and add fields to this content type for this. Again, the big blue button tells you which one to click. All right, so the first field we're going to add is the image field. We'll call it a screenshot. screenshot. Sorry, should put it first. And this is the same image field that you know with Drupal 7. It'll give us some options for configuring it. Those are probably fine. One thing I would recommend, though, and we're working on adding this in Core, always adding a alt field for your images so that they become accessible.
Minor thing, we added automatic image rotation. If your camera is rotating the images, it doesn't sometimes some cameras don't actually rotate the image itself. They use EXIF to say that the image should be rotated. And so if you check this box, it'll read the EXIF data and rotate the image to make it right side up. Which is nice. Also, progress bar used to require an extension in Drupal 7 and in Drupal 8. In Backdrop, the progress bar is now server-side or client-side JavaScript. And so it doesn't require any extensions anymore. So it's always available on all sites.
We'll add is a date field.
Launch date.
So date is a module that's a contributed module in Drupal 7. This is in Core for Backdrop. It's also in Core for Drupal 8. We moved date API and date field, which is called date or whatever, but we did not include date repeat module. That's a contributor module. So in general, we're trying to put the things in Core that are going to benefit at least 80% of people using the Backdrop. But the date repeat module was something that we thought was in that 20% that most people aren't going to be using it. So we left that for contributor, put in only the things that we thought were most important.
I'm just going to save these defaults.
And then the next field we're going to add is one for URL. And this is an example of the link module for Drupal 7, also in Core for Backdrop. Drupal 8 has a similar module called URL that doesn't include the same functionality as the link module for Drupal 7. So it's kind of a difference in our principles where we want to allow you to everything that you did in Drupal 7 should just upgrade to the Backdrop. You shouldn't need to rethink how anything is structured or what to do with any of your data. You need to fit a different system. So we took link field exactly as it was. All right, and then the next one is we're going to go ahead and configure the displays. Yeah, so under manage displays, this is unfortunately the same interface as we had in Drupal 7. We just did a slight change to the landing page, where this used to always be your default configuration. We put in the entity view mode module for Drupal 7 and 4, so this is now called the display modes in Backdrop. So if you wanted to add a sidebar display or a slide display or a promoted display that's different from teaser, which you guys obviously can. But again, you don't need that. You just ignore it. You've never used this in Drupal 7, that's fine. Default is on the top here. It gives you a link image display, and this will take you to the same interface you're familiar with. We do have an issue we're working on putting layouts into this interface in the future, but coming soon. So we can go ahead in this interface and what we're going to do, hide the screenshot, make the labels for launch date and project in line. Hide the screenshot sounds crazy because you want that, but we're going to put it on the page in a different way. All right.
Let me put the body at the bottom.
Sure. Okay. So, let's go create some content. So if you go to create a project, you need a title.
Yeah. Let's do a Mario picture. I like using Jen's computer for these demos because she has a lot of rabbits on her.
Rabbits too.
Yeah.
But I do actually have screenshots of it. We should send this to you. All right, there's one. Let's just create one more.
Oh, we should have turned off comments. you know. I'm going to turn off comments just for.
Yeah, we should also show his comment closers in there. You already closed comments?
I did.
You want to point out comments? So there's also a module for Drupal 7 called Comment Closer, which is a core feature in WordPress that allows you to set a period of time after which comments can no longer be added to your post. So you can say, these comments are over 2 weeks, and then shut it down, and that'll help prevent those like spam bots that find posts on your site that are 100 years old and they think no one noticed. They go and create a bunch of comments on them.
That must be at the content type setting, right?
Oh, you just closed it on the page, not on the site. That's fine. I thought you went to the content type.
No, I just turned off my one type.
Fair.
Oops, I forgot to upload any. Did I? I did select the image. Oh, the image is hidden, right? Because we did that.
I tricked you.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so you have 2?
Yep.
All right, so what we're going to do now is copy all of our website that we just created from this instance on Pantheon, which is our development copy of the site, over to a test instance on Pantheon. So there are 2 exact copies of the site. And we're going to keep building stuff on the development instance of the site, and at the end of the session, we're going to copy only the configuration from dev to test so you can see what it would look like to deploy configuration changes in Backdrop. So here's Pantheon.
I don't have permission to do that for some reason.
You're a developer. See, this is the
Are you going to do it for me?
Okay, I do. So
Oh, yeah.
Essentially, did it. Why would that's weird. Hold on, it's still copying.
Oh, it is?
Right now. No, what does it say? Configuration directory is wrong.
Yeah, it's like the files aren't copied over.
Huh. Maybe I forgot the files. Let's see. Copy files. Nope. I don't know what that is. So we were building this in the car on the way here this morning. And usually what we do with Pantheon is there is no test instance installed, so when you go to deploy, you can just click a button and it'll fire one up. But we already had an instance there, so this isn't going to work. Why don't we just carry on with this?
Oh, okay.
We can deploy somewhere else. Okay, so next we're going to do is create a view. Views in Drupal is a super powerful module that lets you write SQL queries without having to know any SQL, pull out content from any kind of list that you want. It's exactly the same in Backdrop with a few minor design improvements, usability updates. So we're going to create a view here and call it short. Projects is fine. We're going to show all the content of type project. We can sort it news first. We're going to create a block. We're going to give it the title's good, items display, it's totally fine.
How about HTML list?
Sure. Continue and configure. Again, the button you're supposed to click through. And this takes you to views, UI. This is like the airplane cockpit where there's like stuff everywhere. And if you don't know what to click, it can be really scary. But for the purposes of this example, we can just click save. Everything's fine. All right. So now what we can do is go ahead and place this block we just created into a layout. And this is one of the things that is most different between Drupal 7 and Backdrop is our layout system. So in Drupal 7, your layout was dictated by your theme, and if you changed your theme, all of the blocks that you placed just disappeared because the region names might not match up. In Backdrop, we separated the idea of a layout from the idea of the theme, so you can change your theme, and it's really just a skin, and it'll skin over your content, your layout, wherever you put stuff. And so that means that now when we go to place blocks, we don't do that from the add block page, which is right before we do it from the layout page. So by default, Backdrop core ships with 4 layouts. The default layout is the one that will take precedence if nothing else matches. And the way the other ones work is it just starts at the top and goes, is this the right layout? Is this the right layout? Is this the right layout? And it does a bunch of testing on visibility conditions. So the first thing it tests is the path. So under the very top, it says path and layout. The top one you see is at the path admin dashboard. That's a layout that controls what's on your dashboard. The second one is the home URL. So that controls what's on your home page. And if your page isn't dashboard or home, it'll fall back to using your default layout. There's also an administrator layout. This works for every page that's using your admin theme and matches nicely that way. So if you want to do something special for that layout, you can do that too. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go to the home page.
No, I was going to say the default
All right,
layout.
you can do the default one. We're going to add our new view block. So when you click configure blocks, you get a page that shows, you can't see in the screen here, but every region has a box around it, and you can add things into various different regions. So what we're going to go ahead and do is add the sidebar, the block we just created. This is the find your blocks interface. It's just a search box so you can type in the name or description of that block, and it'll show you the one you just created. And then when you go to add the block to the page, it gives you a bunch of options that you can choose. Title, so you can override the title from wherever the block's coming from if you want to change it. There's also an option in there for no title. This is something that really bothered me about Drupal, is that when you want to get rid of title, you put like none is weird angry bracket in there. We got rid of that, so you can just say no title. Under style settings, you have one option which just lets you add a class. We use the default styles, you can add whatever classes you want to the block. But if you want more control over your markup than just the ability to add a class or not, you can change this to dynamic. And dynamic will let you choose all of the wrapper tags, all of the inner label levels. So if you want an H3 instead of H2, or you want an aside instead of a div, or you want a nav tag, whatever you want, you can have control over it through the interface. And this is something that we pulled from views, is really successful in views, letting people control every little bit of their view output. When that first went into views, I was like, oh no, this is a terrible idea. Everyone's going to hate it. And I was wrong. Everybody loved it. So we took the thing that worked for views and we put it into blocks. That's another place where people really want to have control over the markup on that page. There's also visibility conditions, and these right now match what's in Drupal 7. So if you want to limit who can see a block to what their permissions are on the site, what language the site's in, what page you're on, all of that stuff is also available here. All right, we're going to go ahead and add this block. I don't think we've changed anything. We just showed you stuff, but check it here. And then a couple of other things just about the layout page in general. This is a drag and drop interface, so you can drag and drop blocks around. You can't yet change the layout, but we're working on that as well in Fork. But one thing that's fundamentally different about the way pages are organized in Backdrop and Drupal is that the header and footer are blocks. So that if you want to control the way your header looks, you come to this interface and you configure the block. So this is where you find the checkboxes for, like, do you want to show a logo or not? Do you want your site name to display or not? Do you want your site slogan to display or not? If you change it here, all of the instances of this block across your site will update. All right, so we're going to go ahead and save this layout. And then we go back to any page that's not our home page. Like our first post page. In the sidebar, we should now have a list of recent projects. That's great. All right, so the next thing we want to do is make a layout for a project page. And because of the project page, there's no screenshot. So we're going to go to the layouts interface and we're going to add a new layout. So we're going to drop that new one. And we're going to override an existing Backdrop system path. So in order to do that, we're going to have to type in something crazy. So let's do the layout here. Going is good. Then in the path box, we're going to type node/%. This is really weird, but that's what Backdrop calls it. So that's what you're going to put in there. And we know that everyone's going to forget that. So we also put it in the like help text underneath, so that hopefully when you you get here and you don't remember what that is, you'll be able to copy paste it. All right, as soon as we added the correct send sign, Backdrop recognized that path and said, oh, I know what that is, and it automatically added this thing called context that most of the time you'll never need to understand. It'll just do it for you. But if you did want to do something really crazy with context and add multiple ones, you can just put multiple % signs in the URL, and Backdrop will say, hey, what's that other thing you're going to pass me? And you can tell it, oh, that's a taxonomy term ID, that's user ID, or just like, I'm going to deal with it myself later. But we won't worry about that for now. Visibility conditions here exactly match the visibility conditions on blocks. So if you wanted to have, maybe for the project page, you would have it look different to anyone who's visiting your site versus an administrator who might need to be able to manage stuff on that page. You can do that. But here we won't. We'll just leave it default.
Oh, we need node type.
Oh, right. Sorry.
So that changes the visibility of the layout based on the person that's logged in or not.
Yep, it could. So you could show different layouts for different levels of permissions, or different layouts for different languages, or in this case, we're going to do a different layout per content type.
So this will make sure this layout will only work for project nodes as opposed to all nodes. All right.
Yep.
So hit create layout. It'll now give us an exact copy of our default layout. So we're thinking it's much easier for people to remove things they don't want than add everything back again. So it gives you a copy of that. And because we had a sidebar on the previous page, it populated the same information with the sidebar on this page. It just happens to be on the other side. So what we're going to do here is add another block. So if you type in screenshot, it turns out that every field that you add to a content type has a block already available in the system. So you can place a block for the screenshot. In the same way that you can configure that screenshot on the manage displays page, the interface is here. So you can decide what you want the image style to be, or whether it should be floated. All of the same questions you got in the other interface are provided. So we can go ahead and drop that in. And then something that's really impossible to do in Drupal is to grab the main page content and move that into a different part of the page. So
Not sure this is actually recommended, but we do it just for demonstration. Yeah, just because you can.
All right, so let's go look at our project and see.
All right, we need to get to a project. So this is an article, or sorry, a post. And so it's still using the default layout that has, so this is a node, but it's a different type of node. And so it's got the sidebar on the right-hand side, but going to a project page, it's using the layout where the main content is on the left in the sidebar, and then that big image is on the right in the main content area.
So it's a feature that a field is available at the block level as specific to Backdrop.
There is a field as block module for Drupal 7 you can use for that, but we ported panels into our layout system, and so we ended up implementing this solution differently, even though it's the same feature of that module. All right.
We've only got a couple of minutes left.
Yeah, I think we're down to config export anyway. Do you want to just show them config?
Yeah, sure.
So another thing that's significantly different between Drupal 7 and Backdrop is the fact that all of our configuration is saved not in the database. We have a bunch of JSON files that are written by the system every time you click save on a configuration form. And if you wanted to be able to deploy these across environments, it's pretty easy. This is the configuration UI. It gives you a list of all of the kind of things that have configuration. So if you wanted to look at a layout, for example, it'll say, well, here are your layouts that are available. They show you the project's layout. But here's a bunch of JSON that represents that project layout that we just built. So you can either use this interface to take this one JSON file and plug it into another website, or you could deploy the whole thing using version control, which is what we generally recommend. Differences between one site and synchronize pretty easily between different sites. So they don't have to be the same site. You can take a view you built for one thing and run a completely different project.
Yeah. So this, for the most part, eliminates the need for features. Features module in Drupal 7 is how you generally deploy things between environments. It's a killer feature for Drupal 8, and Backdrop implements it to it's different.
Same thing, but differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. It solves the same need, but it's implemented differently.
Yeah, our big thing being that it's JSON instead of YAML files for performance reasons, and we don't use YAML anywhere else, so why start there? And Backdrop always writes config files to disk as you're changing them. So as you change your site title or something like that, it's updating a JSON file on disk. And so there's no database involved whatsoever in Backdrop's config system, which helps for transparency actually too. Like as you're changing things, you can see as a developer, like things are changing on disk. So for Backdrop, there's no export step when you need to deploy between environments because it's always exported all the time. So if you're managing it with version control, you say git diff and you can see what you've changed without doing any exporting whatsoever because it's just changing files on disk.
Yeah, we do have an export in this interface just so that you can grab the tar file of all the files without needing to go to the code. So if you're only working with two websites to the interface, you can use it this way. But it doesn't do anything other than deliver the files that are already on disk.
Where's that page that has the list of all the modules?
It's under go under support, developer notes, and sidebar. So this is a whole bunch of information comparing Backdrop and Drupal 7. So there's a section for upgrade from Drupal 7. And then as a child page, this is like all the nitty gritty details if you want to get upgraded quality steps. There's a page here like most commonly used modules from Drupal 7 that have been merged into the Backdrop Fork. So we've got a list of 62 of them. I didn't update this on Wednesday. We had a release on Wednesday. We included another one.
So these are all the contrib modules that have some equivalent in core in Backdrop, which has 62 modules thus far.
Actually 63.
Yeah.
So growing, it's Drupal 7 plus a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, and then also if you go to the next page in the sidebar, top 100 Drupal 7 modules, just in terms of what's ready for Backdrop today. The stuff here with the blue checkboxes in core, all we showed you today is what was in core and what module, sort of. Everything that's green we have in contrib for Backdrop, and then the black stuff is stuff that you don't need anymore because other things are done differently, but you could use if you wanted to, and then the red stuff is the stuff that we haven't started. So in terms of the top 100 modules, we have 91 of them, which is pretty good.
What's the compatibility between modules or contrib modules and Drupal?
So if you take a Drupal 7 module and you want to run it on your Backdrop site, there's one thing you absolutely have to do, and that's change one line in your info file from saying that it's a Drupal 7 module to saying that it's a Backdrop module. And then beyond that, it really depends on the module. We like to say that your code is like 80% compatible. Sometimes that's all you have to do, and then it'll be like 99% compatible. But there are a lot of modules that are significantly different, or modules that are significantly complex that might have integration with layouts, or something like features that did what config did differently. Whereas if you use that on Backdrop, you probably want to do it in a different way. So even though you could get it working in the same way it did in Drupal 7, you'd be missing out on some of those features. Yeah. So majority of the modules that I've ported have taken me hours to port. The hardest one I've ever done took 2 weeks. So, and that was completely integrated with the way that page building worked. Yeah. So just in terms of like how much developer time that takes compared to like, other systems that may be vastly different.
Yeah, we have one of our advocates in the Oakland area is a nonprofit development company called Aspiration Tech, and they've been running Drupal sites since 4.5 and have been upgrading their same Drupal website over all of those years. And they upgraded to Backdrop from Drupal 7, and the developer did it in 2 weeks. Yeah. Their whole website, and she claimed this is the easiest upgrade of Drupal I've ever done. And that's the goal. And the upgrade from Drupal 7 to Backdrop is probably hopefully going to be the worst upgrade ever for us. And it's saying something that what we think is going to be our worst one, because we had to change the name of the project, and that changed the name of like hundreds of functions and lots of other things that we aim for that upgrade to be the hardest upgrade you'll ever need to make. And if saying that it's the easiest upgrade ever in Drupal's history says a lot.
Yeah. And we have like a meta issue in the queue that's like, find everything that's hard now and fix it. So we have a backwards compatibility layer between Drupal and Backdrop that's enabled by default that does things like wrap all of the Drupal functions in Backdrop functions or vice versa, all Backdrop functions. So if you call a Drupal function, it'll still work. But what we have it do when it does that is it logs a log into your watchdog. It's like, hey, developer, if you care, this is how you would update this function. And so we have a meta issue that's like, find every one of those places where there's a compatible change so we can provide a wrapper function and a link to a change note for documentation on how to change it. So that hopefully as more people go through the upgrade process, it'll get easier and easier because we'll keep identifying things that we can smooth out for the upgrade process.
Any other questions? Okay, well, we are all out of time, so thank you guys very much for attending.